Oh yeah, it's Romanov time. So, quick summary for everyone who was not here the last stream. We started off, we were stuck in these little provinces. We peacefully annexed these guys, took out these guys. Took out these guys because we had no other choice. These guys attacked into us first. Took out these guys, and then took out these guys to take out these guys. Unified West Russia, and then took out this bit of this from that guy. Very quick, simple explanation. We're ready to go. That's all we need from the for the stream recap, I think. Before we ended the last stream, we went ahead and did a couple stuff on this side, because I'm hoping we'll be able to go ahead and do the Congress of Vologda, because, and apparently this is still a bit of an issue, this path is kind of bugged and the elections are kind of weird and sketchy. Now, if we need to, there are a few ways we can work around it, but I'm hoping what we've done on this bit, as well as some of the past events, will help us enough to get us out of that hole that we might be stuck in. Anyway, for now we're going to go with the Emperor's Peace. Through hard work and focused efforts, we have managed to pacify many of the partisan bands that have plagued our nation. Though bandits and criminals will always exist, an end to large-scale disorder means a consequent rise in both popular confidence regarding the political support of a government. We can now turn our attention to one of the other many matters requiring attention, confident that, at least internally, our security situation has been rectified. I might need to use your console. Yeah, I might have to. But I know generally what to do. I had kind of the same issue with my RFK to Glen guide, because even with everything I did, RFK was still popular, and so he had to cheese it. No, I think we get working on jet engines. Why not? Anyway, I think we just finished with the war in Finland. Yeah. And so our army's a bit battered, a bit beaten back, but we're looking good. We're feeling good, and we can go ahead and get going. So let's unpause. So chat, how are you guys doing? You hanging in there? You having a good Friday so far? See, we'll put them on, I guess, this border. Actually, we probably don't need to do that. Yeah, good to hear. We're not too bad. Not bad. Good to hear. Aristocrat and gentleman? How's Cheetah doing? They're kind of hanging in there. Oh, this war area is just a clusterfuck deal. Vibin'. There we go. Always good to be vibin'. Got the Emperor's Peace. And now I think it's time to go ahead and do the Congress of Vologda. Before conquest of it, Vologda and the neutral zone that extended around it acquired a reputation for peace and stability. We can use this to our advantage. The Congress promised so long ago must take place, and it can take place in Vologda. With representatives from all major political factions invited, deliberations will proceed until a cabinet for the Tsar's first true government is formed. It is expected that there will likely be considerable discord between the factions, but regardless of what may occur, the Congress of Vologda will be historic, establishing the first monarchist government in Russia in 40 years, and we will not let that opportunity escape us. Yeah, East Siberia always... It always pains me to look over here. It doesn't help that it outright just can be broken sometimes. Like, I remember one of my games, I think it was my Spear game actually, Mandate won after a couple of years, and they went to war with the anarchist breakaways, like all the Balkanized state version, and the Balkanized states won and beat the Mandate. And so, old Yeltsin just basically... Okay, got in hand the Marshal. Not too bad. Okay. And so, Yeltsin basically had an easy battle. Only had to move this far, and he reunified Russia. Alright, here we are. The people of Russia are gearing up for election season. An idea once unthinkable scant decades ago, now it is up to the Russian people to decide the fate of their nation and their leaders. Political parties, both big and small, are preparing their support orders and their backers across the nation. Thousands of volunteers, campaign staff, and candidates make ready to part to the rallies, tours, speeches, and debates that will dominate the headlines for the coming months. Candidates will be scrutinized, issues debated, and in the end, millions of voters will be able to make their voices heard by the powers that be. So we're going to be campaigning for the cadets to a brighter future. So let's see how we're doing right now. Already we're doing very well. Let's see, Arctic Russia. We're doing very well in Arkhangelsk. Pretty well in there. Plesetsk we're doing okay. Velsk we're doing okay. Mikun and Utka we're dominating. Central Russia. A bit less impressive, but we're doing well in Svensk. Vyatka is kind of a crapshoot. We're doing it better in Syktyvkar than anywhere else. Kostroma is a pretty strong VNS stronghold, actually, interestingly enough. You have a Transvolga. Doing well in Nizhny Novgorod. Better than anywhere else in Samara. Let's see. Ural region. So we can go ahead and encourage minority voting, so let's go ahead and do that. Get turnout out. Oh, I gotta ask Mr. Dog about, since Comey's being pre-recorded, would it be possible to have Rebel be streamed? Maybe. It depends on the schedule distribution. I might stream Manga Rebel. I might end up doing that. I'm not sure yet. Where do we need? Where should we campaign at? I think Transvolga is the place to start. So let's go to Transvolga. And, we can't do anything here. Recommend you save. That's probably a good idea, yeah. Game might have already decided the Conservatives win. Yeah. Shoot, yeah, you're right there. Well, let's go ahead and get started with the Imperial Recovery Committee. With the establishment of a sovereignty, we can no longer rely on a vodka distillery to provide a significant portion of a state's budget. We must instead develop and execute an integrated economic plan on a national scale. To do this, the Tsar has announced the formation of the Imperial Economic Council, which will assemble experts from both the nation and emigrant communities and task them with overseeing such development and implementation. Through intelligent and consistent planning, the economy and industrial base will both grow, improving the lives of ordinary Russians while also preparing us for eventual campaign of national reunification. The Vologda Conference has begun. The event went fairly as predicted, beginning with the filtering of various officials from all around our burgeoning czardom. Most of the primary three factions were in full attendance, well prepared for goings-on within the Congress. As a hush fell over the buzzing crowd of attendees, opening statements, minutes, and other obligatory introductions were made before cutting to the chase, the three factions laying out their arguments. The cadets began first. Predictably, their rhetoric tended towards reform. They proposed rights for minorities, movement towards a progressive future, and most importantly, the creation of a constitutional monarchy with a strong democratic system. The VSN, in their own stuffy way, argued their points passionately. Recalling the nostalgia of the old empire, they made it clear that they fought for conservative but democratic values. Little arguments for reform could be found among their statements, and they ultimately established themselves as a clear status quo candidate. Next came up the speech from the NTS. Populism, nationalism, freedom, and monarchism were their four key sticking points. They made firm arguments towards projecting the ideas of both liberalism and communism, of holding the Russian man above any such system. They, however, were not without testaments towards democracy. How authentic that claim or execution is or will be is unclear. Reactions are mixed at current, and only time will tell who will get their way. But it's a move towards change regardless. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on all the poll stuff as we go along. Polling has been updated. Let's take a look. NTS is pretty irrelevant in a lot of these big places. Where's the NTS campaigning at? We can't tell. Seems monarchism will win Russia one way or the other. It seems so. No longer the effects of the archives of Samara. It's not like we're getting much from that anyway. I'll pay off our debt a little bit. Although we emerged victorious in Western Russia, through both military and political efforts, this has cold comfort for the many Russians left unemployed, homeless, and hungry. The economy of many regions outside of Vyatka proper were, are, and remain completely destroyed. With who the fuck is calling me right now? You know, it's probably a spam message. I'm not even gonna bother. Get the fuck out of here. The economy of many regions outside Vyatka proper were, are, and remain nearly completely destroyed, with abominable living conditions and virtually no advancement prospects for those living in them. However, at the Tsar's direction, the Imperial Recovery Committee has drafted a comprehensive plan of construction and reform. They pledge to focus on the repair and construction of domestic industry, the re-establishment of a competent academic base, and the introduction of significant currency and financial reforms. Direct foreign investment will also be vigorously pursued. Though it will be very difficult and require hard decisions to be made, the experts of the committee are confident that, if a course is stayed, their plan will succeed. They further state that such successes will not only serve the millions of Russians crying out for prosperity, but also provide the economic base needed to reasonably pursue further unification efforts. The Tsar, who himself gathered the committee together for this purpose, has no reason to doubt them. It's time to get to work. Let's see, what do we want to get working on? We can move down this to get some taxes. Foreign capital. The white currency reform, lower interest rates, up the GDP growth there. Or if we go down here and get a fucking research slot. They are very, and we can take a look at this, civilian factories, all the usual stuff. I want the research slot. You know how insane it is? That I don't think I've seen many trees that give you a research slot in this game anymore. So this is huge. So I'm going for this. So we'll get working towards an academic recovery, first things foremost. For a very long time, available education in Russia has been minimal, when it has been available at all. As our economy continues to recover, this deficiency can and must now be addressed. Without educated citizens, we cannot continue to develop our economy beyond subsistence levels, and so we will invest in it. At the insistence of the Imperial Recovery Committee, a comprehensive plan for the development of a national educational infrastructure, from primary to tertiary, will be created, and resources allocated and implemented. In this way, we can prepare for the future, and leave as part of our legacy a generation of intelligent, innovative, and forward-thinking Russians. There we go. So we get public education, a little bit more GDP. Okay, we can go ahead and campaign somewhere else. Where do we want to campaign? You know, honestly, I'm going to play it a little safe. Think about it in the future for Vyatka, we'll get a Tsarina since he only has a daughter. That's possible, though. You never know how that sort of thing is going to go. They could find some way to, because before in the past we've found a cousin to rule instead of a distant relative who's still a Romanov, who's a male, because they don't want women ruling. Whether that's probably not fair, but hasn't stopped him from doing it. Although for this, I think especially Okay, let's see how we're doing. We're doing very well in Arctic Russia, it seems. That might change that? Yeah, exactly. Especially if we end up going cadets. Yeah. So far, so good. Encourage more minority voting. Oh god, did I turn off? Okay, I did disable decision not known checks. I was worried for a second. Because if you don't do that, that will break this mod. Go ahead and invest more in some politics stuff, and we'll do this once or twice for now, and if we're still holding strong, we can lay off on it. Anyway, let's look to some regional development. How is all of this coming along? Hungary sides with Germany. Let's work on some poverty stuff. Poverty relief program, slight increase in GDP. Infrastructure and building slots in these places, that's not a bad deal. Let's get some resources. Agriculture, how's that coming along? We're gonna go up fairly quickly in the next 2 months, so I'm not too worried about that. Academic recovery, beautiful. Full rules in charge, I doubt they would care. Probably not. Back in a bit, no problem, kid. Let's reopen the universities. With significant funding now available for education, we must now act to reopen many institutions of higher learning long closed in Western Russia. These institutes, unused and unneeded during the many years of division and conflict in the region, are essential if we wish to ensure that the sovereignty possesses the means by which to generate the next generation of administrators, industrialists, researchers, and more besides. An inventory of campuses will be completed, and reconstruction priorities will be subsequently assigned. Once in operation, we are likely to notice both an increase in our ability to develop innovative solutions or improvements to problems. Next stop, Vyatka. The conductor bellowed the notification over his microphone, echoing throughout the train. As it chugged along, a man with a teenage daughter who slept on his shoulder could be seen in one of their seats. This was Mikhail Valtsvik, a Russian emigre just like the others on the train. As the train kept chugging along, Mikhail would chuckle. He never expected to be back in Russia with a daughter. He had fled during the Civil War with his family, and now he came here for a new life for himself and his daughter after the death of his wife. And so here the two were on the brain train, filled with emigre scientists bound for Vyatka. They had come through Arkhangelsk, the only safe way to get to Vyatka, due to the recent war. The train screeched to a halt suddenly, as the conductor told the passengers that their train had arrived at its destination. Mikhail woke Alexandra up, and the two walked off the train. Snow fell on the train station as Alexandra turned to her father, saying, "Oh, hey, Burp, how you doing? Wrong Monarch game right now, but close enough." So, this is Vyatka, huh? Mikhail nodded, saying, "Yes, it is. Did you ever come here in your youth?" "No, lower-class people rarely went out of their local area when I was a boy." Alexandra soon moved around the station, taking in the falling snow as she said, "This is the first time I've seen snow in my life. Was it always like this in the winter?" "Yes, snow pretty much falls every year here." The two remained silent for a moment before Alexandra finally asked, "Do you think Mom and Babu would have been glad we did this?" Mikhail paused, trying to figure out what he was going to say. He looked at his daughter, a tear rolling down his cheek, as he said somberly, I think they would if we were happy. I am, but are you?" Alexandra, a faint smile on her lips as a tear slid down her cheek as well, replied, "Yes, I am, Papa. I am." And so the two embraced each other in the falling snow. How's our army development coming along? Not at all. Let's get some foreign instructors coming in then. Start paying off a bit of debt. Pulling updates. Let's take a gander. Yeah, this is really hard to read and figure out who's doing the best. Opinion on the hardest Russian unifier. I think the Aryan Brotherhood. As far as I can tell, that's the hardest one to do, because you have a bunch of manpower buffs, production, or manpower debuffs, production debuffs. Aryan Brotherhood. I'll go region by region. Aryan Brotherhood, probably Omsk. Here... I don't know too much, actually. Maybe the PRC, because I've never seen them win, but that's just a guess. And here's Amur. Amur is probably the hardest. There. Yeah, the VNS is doing ridiculously well, and I don't get why that is, so... Oh yeah, the coring rate on the AB is fucking insane, too. It takes, what, a full year to get cores? It doesn't even say... Oh, okay. VSN lead. We have cadet leads in a fair few of these places. It's just, Actually, yes, I'm not horribly worried. It's just in the Ural region and Transvolga, they are whooping us. Which is strange. Miss anything? Not really. Not yet. We're about to get a research slot, though, which is huge. The Russian Academy of Sciences was, for many years, the preeminent educational institution in the empire, producing many great inventors, engineers, thinkers, and cultural icons. That academy is now far behind the German lines and utterly inaccessible. To complete our plan of academic revitalization, we will replace this now lost institution with a new one. The Tsar has decreed at the time about the construction of a new Academy of Sciences, this time in Kazan. With time, patience, and funding, as well as some luck, it will become a beacon of advancement and prove to the world that Russia is no longer a backwards-thinking nation. Hopefully it will, at least. Hopefully. Vlad Mikhail meetup event when? They need to add that. That should be in this, but I don't think it is. We got a few more days to campaign. Better agricultural methods, based. More monthly population. We are getting along quite well. Polling updated. Let's see. Ufa, we have a lead in here. Samara, we have a lead in. Nizhny Novgorod. The leads elsewhere, well, in these places it's kind of big, but the rest, it's not horribly concerning. Although I am going to be a little bit worried, regardless. Well, it seems like the VSN is not going to get their last campaign then. We can just demonetize them. Yeah, we could give that a shot. And then I don't think it's... Just to be safe. I think we'll be fine regardless. I don't even know if these will end up registering, but we'll do it to be safe. Kazan Science Academy. Now let's go ahead. Let's work on the economic recovery here. The initial policies of the Imperial Recovery Committee have already shown effect. Although the decrease in poverty and hunger and corollary increases in industrial output and wages growths are minimal, they are nonetheless observable. But we cannot stop here. There's much work to be done. The committee's work has only just begun. Still, it has already had an impact for the better on the lives of many of our citizens, and that must be applauded. So our GDP growth will slightly increase. There we go. Not bad at all. A 4th research slot. Oh. This is incredible. I love this already. Get working on modernizing more of our stuff. Tsar Vladimir III stood on the steps of the newly opened Imperial Academy of Sciences in the city of Kazan. He looked out over the crowds before him at the faces of the future of Russia. The next generation of Russian intelligentsia prepared to start their journey into the sciences. The Tsar took a deep breath before he began his speech. As I look out among you, I see the future of the Empire. Each and every one of you have been chosen to embark on a journey to explore the depths of the sciences. You will be the driving force behind the evolution of Russian science, the bearers of a torch of progress. Once, Russia had boasted the finest scientific minds in the entire world. The advances made in the old empire brought Russia out of the dark. That scientific tradition survived in the Great War. It survived the Bolsheviks, and it will thrive in this new era of revitalization. These are those who would call the Russian people barbarians and savages, that we have nothing to contribute to the scientific community. These people are the greatest fools of all. We will prove them wrong by rebuilding the great community of science within our empire. The Tsar's speech came to its end, and the crowd erupted into applause. The students in the crowd were excited to begin their path into the world of the sciences. Many of them had been born into the anarchy and were, while more well-off than most, unable to acquire more than a simple education. Those of the nobility were better prepared for the days to come, but even they were less well-off than their parents had been. The faculty were the best prepared of them all. They had been part of the old intelligentsia and remembered the days when Russia was a leader in the sciences. If they had anything to say about it, the scientific community would beg for the attention of imperial scientists again in the near future. Science is a Russian institution, after all. Well, we're going to get the results in 1967. Alright, drumroll please, boys. Let's see. As the Congress of Vologda progressed, delegations from various factions made their voices and positions heard, each trying to influence the will and build the support of the Russian people. Each was given a chance to speak and believed in their hearts that they would be victorious. The Constitutional Democrats, better known as the Cadets, and under the leadership of the internal reformist, Roman Gul, pledged to make Russia a place for all its people, Russian and non-Russian alike. They promised regional autonomy, the respect of cultural and religious traditions, and the liberalization of the Tsar's regime, believing that to do so would create a state that all could be proud to be part of. The conservatives, under the leadership of the old imperial bureaucrat Vasily Shulgin, promised a return to the values of the Russian Empire. They vowed to ensure strength and stability under the guidance of a strong and centralized government, and watched over by an equally strong and authoritative Tsar. The Solidarists, under the leadership of the firebrand Alexander Solzhenitsyn, offered an alternative direction based on anti-communist thought. They pledged great victories and new glories for Russia and her people under the guiding hand of the Tsar and his government. As the end of the Congress drew near, the millions of votes cast around the sovereignty were counted, and the delegates waited in bated breath. The votes are in. See you, Burb. Thanks for hopping in. Far away from the Congress of Vologda, in a city once again known as Perm, Alexander Medvedev sat in front of a small radio. The former Red Army soldier and partisan resumed his life following the defeat of a monstrous Aryan Brotherhood, hanging up his rifle and returning to his previous occupation as a lumberjack. Having now lived under two failed and brutal regimes, he was willing to give the so-called Tsar a chance. So far, as much as he could tell, the Romanov scion had done right by the Russian people. His attention was returned to the radio as a result of a Congress was announced. A victory in a surprisingly clear majority for the Constitutional Democrats, or Cadets. Medvedev had not expected that. The Soviets had long taught that monarchism was inherently and inexorably reactionary. Instead, however, this new empire seemed to be marching in the opposite direction, towards liberalism and democracy. He was not yet sure what to make of such a change, but he did know that he was looking forward to seeing what it truly meant. With that thought, Medvedev finished his tea and went to bed. It was a new day tomorrow, and he had many more trees to cut. A new dawn for Holy Russia. So let's take a look at these results. We got all of them in Arkhangelsk. Onega was kind of split. Very well in Ukska. We swept in Kazan. Wow. Encouraging the minorities to come out really helped. Izvetsk, which is, I forget where. Oh right, it's here. They came out for us too. That minority voted. I'm telling you, man. This place tied. Interestingly enough, Nizhny Novgorod went very much in our favor. Samar went in our favor. Ufa went in our favor. Perm didn't. I was noticing a trend of larger urban centers being pretty decisive in our favor, but it seems that Perm is an example that kind of breaks the rule. But hey, overall, I think I'm happy with this. I am. I don't have to reload the save. Also, Medvedev reminds me of a current Russian president. Same name? I don't know if it's the same family. Oh, we can encourage more Russian voting, or minority voting. I'll do that just to get some more Lib Dem support. Look at that, boys. Oh! That makes me happy to see. Polling updated. There's no point in doing this anymore, so I'm not worried. Economic recovery. So there any lore how the U.S. Have Greenland? I think they seized it after Denmark fell. I think they might have done that in real life too. But after Denmark fell and became collaborationists, they took control over Greenland and Iceland. Set up a puppet regime in Iceland, or military regime, and Greenland's just occupied. The eponymous Witte currency reform, named for the member of the Imperial Recovery Committee who designed it, council members and members of the Imperial Recovery Committee who suggested it, focused on both the introduction of a single centralized currency, the mandate of it as the only form of legal tender within the sovereignty. This will act to combat the continued use of regional currencies, inequalities in purchasing power or stability, and black market transactions and exchanges besides. The result has been promised to be, after an initial period of disorder as the system is converted, an overall increase in coordinated economic activity. Excuse me. There we go. More GDP, pay off our reserves. Our interest rates are going to go down with that, so that means a little bit we have to worry a bit less about our debts. It's very nice. More doctrines. Improve agriculture real quick. U.S. forces Iceland was an actual thing during World War II. Makes sense. If Puerto Rico isn't a state, what hope does Greenland have? Oh, just watch. Greenland in this timeline becomes the 51st state before Puerto Rico does. Oh. That would be hilarious. I'd love that. How's old Wallace doing? He's taking the floor. The people of Russia decided. The last ballots have been counted, and the winners of the 1966 election decided. The victors have made their speeches, thanks to their voters, and have begun to focus energies towards the task of governance. Reporters and journalists have returned to the regular crime scandal, and fluff pieces pushed aside during the election. Party machines have been shutting down, ads removed, and campaign posters and items put in storage for future use. Soon the campaign will become a distant memory, something for historical and political strategists to look back on in the future. After all, plans are already being drawn for the next election cycle, for when the whole process will begin again. Candidates and voters, you have done Russia proud. And so, yeah, this will be irrelevant coming up. Which Russia do you think is more economically prosperous? That's a good question. Libdem Komi, I know, has a pretty solid economic structure, from what I remember. Well, in practice, yes. But after Eisenhower tears up the Ikagi Accords, they basically admit it into the Union and say it's a state. So, sorta. I get what you mean, though. Well, let's get the victory for the cadets in. To the surprise of many, especially in a monarchist state, liberalism has triumphed at the Congress of Vologda. The Constitutional Democrats, better known as the Cadets, and led by Roman Gul, have secured the majority of delegates and will soon form government. The Cadets have declared their intentions to institute reforms that they have long championed, an intent to focus overwhelmingly on promoting social mobility and personal freedoms. Although the relationship between Gul and the Tsar is likely to be an uneasy one, the Tsar has accepted and supported the electoral results. It's not yet certain, however, whether the nation at large is prepared for such a drastic shift in governmental priorities, and Gul will have to work hard to prove their worth. Well, if anyone can do it, I have faith in Gul. Oh, my favorite event, Vyatka reg.37.t. Shouts filled the air as printing machines worked fast as they could be. Hurry this up! The more we print, the more money we have. If you don't meet the quota, you know what happens. I'll be in my office. Closing the door behind him, so he could have at least some quiet, Boris peered out the window to watch his workers, who were mostly just poor and unemployed peasants who could do nothing else. He just hoped they could execute his perfect plan well enough. This was his best idea yet. A knock came from the door, and an assistant walked in. Sir, we may have a slight problem. They changed the design of the 500 rubles, so we're going to have to throw all those out. They did what?! Let me see that new design. Checking it over, Boris fumed as he noted how the new design was entirely different from the old. Go tell everyone we'll be working overtime for the next week. I also want the old ones burned so we don't have any leftover evidence. Yes, of course. Oh, and by the way, you might want to check the 1,000 rubles the guys printed. The assistant handed him one of the notes. Is this supposed to be Vladimir? He looks like a little girl! Boris tore the ruble into pieces and threw them into the trash can. One last thing, the guys just found out they printed Nicholas' head upside on the 5,000. Don't worry, they only printed a couple thousand before they caught it. Just let him have his fun. Ooh. To our east lie the Great Ural Mountains. The traditional border between Europe and Asia, this great mountain range is critically important in our unification ambitions. In the aftermath of the West Russian War and the collapse of the front, the region was left bereft of any central authority. Many communes and villages took to either the city of Orenburg or the soldiers of a Ural League protection. Our intelligence reports that the others fell under the sway of Van KVD remnants in Magnitogorsk, or were sacked by Drolvenger's brigade. The rise in tension after the end of German terror bombings resulted in conflicts that have led to the region's current power structure. The Urals present both an opportunity as well as a threat to our nation. Seizing the area's resources and population would be a great boon to our cause. However, on the far side of the Ural, another unifier state claims its legitimacy as a true Russian government. Were this opponent to capture the Urals, they would be able to station troops on our side of the mountain range, threatening our eastern provinces. We must thus assert our prominence in the region through any way necessary. Our diplomats and generals have prepared an array of tools to bring the Urals into our sphere of influence. Interest. It is projected that the side with the best combination of prestige, diplomatic success, and military intimidation will be able to be first to tip the local elites into accepting unification. Were the diplomatic option to fail, military intervention remains an option that our eastern rivals are not likely to accept easily. The race to the Urals is upon us. We shall triumph over our Siberian rivals and integrate another part of Shadow Russia into our growing nation. A new theater. Oh yeah, the Ural Military District will reunite with anyone. Let's increase investment in the Spear. In Orenburg. Let's up in the Euro League. Alright, Cheetah's unified the Far East. There we go. Foxen, how are you, buddy? You doing okay better? You doing better now? Yeah, Boris will unite with a lot of people, too. As the victors celebrate and the losers mourn, the many polls which were a staple during election season have quickly faded from the forefront. While some continue to run, measuring public opinion on everything from voter satisfaction to blaze scandals, most have been shuttered, awaiting the next election cycle. The many lessons learned from this year's election polling will soon be applied to the next, as experts and amateurs continue to look for ways to improve upon accuracy and reduce bias throughout the polling process. Hopefully there'll be more accurate next time around. What's the district's tagline? They're basically... What's the best way to describe the military district? I'm sorry you're not doing well, Fox, and I really am. Yeah, they're basically the Red Army junta. Literally in this place, because they have the, Batov here. The Ural Military District is the benevolent military dictatorship. It's an actual benevolent military state that actually kind of works in the Cincinnatus type. Shoot, what do we want to work on? Maybe begin reforms. Yeah. After years in the political wilderness, the cadets have, against all odds, secured a governmental mandate. Invested with that mandate, they can now act to implement reforms considered long overdue. Alongside the many other reforms, democratic principles will be enshrined and expanded, and market regulations will be loosened. Although this will draw the ire of reactionary and conservative elements alike, they will see in time the value of empowering the ordinary Russian with dignity and freedom. For if the man is empowered, so too is the nation. And look at that, 51% support for liberal democracy. That's pretty good. Roman Gul had been many things. A soldier in the Great War, in service of the Tsar, a writer and journalist, a concentration camp survivor, an advocate and activist for democratization in Vyatka, and finally, the Prime Minister of Western Russia. Strife and warfare had been constants in his life, in which he rarely shied away from. Yet as he walked down the aisle leading to his Imperial Majesty's suites, a slight feeling of nervousness rose in his chest as he prepared himself for his scheduled meeting. Gul took a deep breath before entering Vladimir's bureau. It was like entering another world, one frozen in time, relics of another age presented all around as he who dared to enter Imperial furnitures, striking Roman's gaze. And there was his liege, sat in his desk, and seemingly having awaited the Prime Minister's arrival. "Your Imperial Majesty," he said in accordance with Imperial etiquette. "I trust that you're doing well today?" "Prime Minister Gul. A slight migraine, but nothing too serious. But nothing too serious, I guess I should say. Please, take a seat. I'm sure you have much to tell me." Gul executed himself. What? Huh. As thoughts raced his mind, Roman started elaborating on his reform plan to the Tsar. Oh yeah, Zukov probably got executed. As I evoked in the past, Your Imperial Majesty, we cannot go on with how poorly regarded personal freedoms are in Russia. The people, Russian and non-Russian speaking citizens is and should always be our priority. Each and every one of your subjects deserve better lives, brighter futures. And though much has been done under your reign, absolute rule and austerity measures cannot be the norm forever. Now that Western Russia is stable, I come seeking your blessing and help in enacting a better tomorrow for our countrymen. Lest we fall to chaos and infighting again if their wards cannot reach us. Gould wasn't wrong. Western Russia was under complete control, and those pesky austerity measures could be loosened, if not removed entirely. Yet the weary middle-aged Tsar, minding to keep a composed facade, couldn't help but be somewhat worried of how far Roman's reforms will go at the expense of the crown's power. But you have my blessing.